evening, good evening, good evening. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing very good today. It's a good day for skateboards in this house.
It's a good day for skateboards. You're going to need an extension soon, mate. So, hello to everyone watching. It's Esk8 UK Live. We've got Esk8 James, we've got Suki behind the scenes as usual, and myself, Minty. So, James, you've been on a buying frenzy, shall we say?
Well, I have
yeah, come on now.
Where do you even start with these? You know, you make a list, and the lists get bigger, and then one skateboard is never enough, and there's always another. And then you say, "I'll get to that project one day," and you finally do, and then you change your mind, and then you go back, and it's just a few skateboards.
What's the total now? What is the total?
Oh,
you should line them up. You should line them up like you know, just disappearing off into the distance.
Maybe
8, maybe. if you're unsure, it'll probably be more than 8 then.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, most of these are like decks that I wanted to retrofit someday, eventually. Like that 48-inch surfboard that I put the Revel kit on. Now Revel on, so that's just typical. I'll get there eventually. So, one of these is the Meepo Mini Dual, which is sort of one of 2 models that uses the smaller but powerful 75mm hub motors. And I wanted to go on a fact-finding mission and use it strictly for a pump track. So very small 2-hour battery, never going to do long distances with it. But for a skate park, perfect. I had a popsicle twin kicktail deck. Could I stand on it? No. So I had to get a standard cruiser deck, increase the wheelbase from 16 inches to 20 inches, and then it could drive in a straight line and not get squirrely. And obviously I chose this very, very, very nice, surfskate deck. And this is one of them from Mindless, and I just love the design.
Yeah, Mindless has got quite a lot of nice stuff there, yeah.
And as you can see, I've got the Meepo Mini Dual system with some paint highlights, because I think you should point out these designs on these boxes instead of keeping them boring. And I just love it. So that's kind of a proper little cruiser deck for the.
So that's the pump deck specific board. That was the raison d'etre for that one.
That's right. Yes, this one, people who do follow my YouTube channel, Esk8 James. I went on another fact-finding mission a few years ago. I wanted to buy the cheapest electric skateboard to see just how good or how bad it was. And I found out very quickly that a single hub motor doesn't go very far or stop very well. Strictly flat ground situation. But, you know, I bought it cheap and I figured I can tell other people, don't do it.
You did the same thing with scooters, didn't you? You bought a scooter and it couldn't go up hills. Bloody hell! You know, just buy yourself a whip and whip yourself, man. Just you know these things to be true.
Well, what annoys me is
step away.
I mean, that scooter, it had everything I could possibly want, apart from one thing: it wouldn't climb a 10-degree hill. And that is what I should have done my research on most of all. So as far as I'm concerned, scooters are not powerful enough yet, unless you have really tiny wheeled ones. But anyhow, so this cheapo one, I ended up putting it on a replica board. And it's not often you see a replica board based on a film, which is Gleaming The Cube. So you may recognize this one as...
very nice.
But the real cool thing is the mirror shine.
Yes, wow. So if you ride that on a sunny day, you could totally blind yourself, couldn't you?
Well, trying to figure out how to do the horseshoe bumpers was a bit difficult with some foam and vinyl wrap. But mirror ball, and that's where the Ripple is going because it's got the disco lights in the enclosure, and I love it. You know, the idea of a metal skateboard, but it actually being bamboo underneath, but vinyl wrap.
So tell me, see with the wrap on it, is there any grip at all with the? No.
That's what I need to figure out. But it's for a pump track, so I mean, Centrifugal force.
No, I'm just wondering. I just try to think of ways that you could keep the look, the integrity of it. I know that for example, on some snowboards, as opposed to a standard stomp pad, just like a rubber stomp pad. One of my boards has got like, it's got like just little metal, almost like sharp rivet things that are stuck on, and they're incredibly, once they're stuck on, they are stuck. Because I thought they might move, but no, they're brilliant. The only thing is, obviously, you need a decent soled shoe so you don't feel the spikes. But my God, it holds your back foot in place. So it might be worth some of those little, because they're metal and it would fit with that vibe quite nicely. It wouldn't take up a lot of real estate on your board.
My idea is to try out spray-on lucid grip tape. Because that's something that I kind of have on this deck and another one I have, but I just wanted to keep the looks. It looks good, and as far as the I think you call them anti-sink gaskets or just anti-sink brackets. These little things.
Yes, the little Batman ones, aren't they?
Yeah, they offer a bit of grip, so I can lock into those a little bit. So there's that as well. I mean, it's good enough for the skim board, and if it works for that, it works for that. But yes, that's where the Exway Ripple is destined to be on, because the mood lighting seems nice fit for the 80s skateboard replica.
So can I just check? Are you gonna do a comparison? So are you gonna ride it as it is first, so when you check it, when you change it, swap it over, you can do a bit of a comparison, or are you just gonna do it straight away?
Oh, well, I'm definitely going to give this a ride. I want to see what it's like climbing hills. Cause the Meepo Mini Dual, even though it's got small 75mm hub motors, it's only marginally better than the cheaper single hub motor, which is not what I wanted. The one from Exway claims to be the strongest hub motors of its size class, which is what I really want to know. Because if they've nailed it, that's great. You can use these smaller hub motors and that'll be fine. But I don't know unless I try, and it keeps raining.
Right. Okay. So that sounds good. So you're going to do a full breakdown on your YouTube channel, maybe?
Maybe. But the other thing I'm really looking forward to is opening this up and seeing what's inside it, what connectors the motors use. Because if I'm right, I could put them on a different board. You see where I'm going with this? The Meepo Mini Dual could have a motor upgrade, and because they're LifeOC, they kind of works with Lingyi ESCs, and that's the other thing. It came with a Meepo V3 Mr. remote, and if you remember this one, I got Elite 3D print.
Yes.
So for those with big hands syndrome like me, that.
I'm a big fan of remote covers anyway, because I just think they're very fragile things, and if they go down in your hand, the idea of having to walk home versus just dusting it off and keeping going, I think, to be honest, I would like to see all manufacturers offering them, when you order the board, click down the list, add it when you buy it.
Absolutely. And I just I think that with these remotes, I was thinking, because everything's kind of hobby wing, what do I do with my Lingyi, or in this case LifeOC remotes? But now that LifeOC is kind of the middle ground between the two, I can still use this remote and maintain the push to start and use the brake modes and stuff. And the newer ones have 10 brake modes. Would you believe that?
10, bloody hell! I mean, that's overkill, isn't it?
But I'm really happy to see what happens next with these, because I've not used a LifeOC ESC yet. I think there's one in the Meepo Mini Dual, so technically I have, but I think the Exway one is probably more refined.
Wow. Okay. You know what? The day that you choose something other than a hub motor, I shall be, need resuscitation though, because it'll be like, what's happened? What's happened to James?
Well, I mean,
But
like I said, I've had a long list of things I wanted to try out,
yes,
and then a new model comes out, and you go, "That's a better fit," and that's a better fit, and it just eventually I'll get there. But I am at the end of my journey, and it's
yes.
actually because of
The
one of
end
the
of it. You've heard it here first. The next thing that James buys might be a gear drive.
Well,
I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there.
We'll get to that. But so we can go on to the Meepo Mini Dual if you want to talk about that now.
Yeah, go for it.
This is essentially their skate park board.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I really like about it is instead of it being sort of like a matte finish on the wood varnish, it's all gloss. So it's like a bowling ball and shiny.
Lovely. So can you just tell us, as we're going through, how long did both of them take to arrive?
Well, that's what astonished me. 6 days. 6 days.
Wow, that is fast.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. And was there any import duties on either of them?
No, thankfully. So I'm quite happy with that. I think there's a few things I don't like about this, but the one that's really annoyed me is this little tab here for the charging port. There's absolutely nothing to grip onto, and you will need a pen to prise that open and then charge the port.
You could just stick on a bit of Velcro or something like that, so that you could stick on a bit of rubber so that you could grab it, something like that, maybe.
I do love the sort of enclosure lights. I know that's a trend that's happened. One feature that's really interesting about this is the throttle position. Depending on where it is, there's a light that goes up on the enclosure.
That is so boy racer, isn't it?
And brake lights.
Yes. I think brake lights now. It's another thing that should just be standard because it's really, really handy. Because
I would say there seems to be a bit of a delay with the braking. So
it's not. Oh yes, I did see it the second time. The first time it seemed to go on really quick.
Yeah,
second time it took about a second. Oh yeah, okay.
So that's one thing I think they probably could work on, which they probably did.
But interestingly, it's interesting that the side lights turn red as well.
You can also, as a full kind of RGB to it, it was a bit confusing trying to figure out how to change the color mode. But you hold the gear button, and it starts changing through them, and you can switch them off, which is nice. But it goes through everything from greens to blues to orange to yellows, and it has like slow pulse changes, and it's like a lava lamp.
It's like a lava. No, and I mean, again, if we think about, you've had problems with your SLFX, bracket breaking and coming off. So I think, anything that's attached to a skateboard with all the rattling and stuff like that, it's always going to be a bigger risk that it's going to come a cropper at some point. So I think the idea of something that's actually built in, it's a good idea. If you're going to do lights, you'd be as well having them as part of the setup.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing I noticed that's rather unusual, obviously these are meant to be the most powerful hub motors of their size, being 75mm, whereas the other ones are 90mm. So significant size difference. These ones, it doesn't look like they have any exposed cores, but they do have cooling fins.
All right, okay.
Which is quite different. We don't see cooling fins on hub motors, but I suppose if they are overclocking these, that makes sense considering the size. So maybe that's one way they can get over the power disparity.
Yeah. So especially, I mean, probably let's be honest, James. This is the good old UK. The temperature is unlikely to trouble motors that are designed to work in Nevada and other such places such as that, Vegas, etc. However, it's a nice idea, isn't it?
Also, there's one other thing that's different. Note the lack of axle. these are axle-less hub motors. So there's a little bolt in the middle there, like a normal skateboard wheel, which is quite different from all the hub motors that we usually see, apart from the backfire ones, which I think have a hollow design. And I can't wait to take it apart.
You can't wait to take it apart. I know. Well, tell us if you find any Loctite or anything, or whether things are tight or loose when you do that.
Yeah,
because that's always quite interesting.
How old would you say is the Exway Ripple now?
How sorry?
How old would you say this model is?
Oh, now? I'm not sure. I'm rubbish at paying attention to these things.
Let's see. Well, July? No. June. Yeah, June. It came out in June last year.
Mm-hmm.
So about a year old, give it almost.
Just almost reaching its first birthday.
Yeah. And I just I'm going to put that on this shiny Gleaming The Cube replica board behind me, and hopefully it can climb hills. Because if not, I will tell people.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So what's your longest distance board that you own now then?
Oh,
which one?
Well, it's probably the Revel, because because I've got a 6 amp hour and a 4 amp hour battery, and even though the other one that I've got has a 10 amp hour battery, for some reason I get more mileage out of the direct drive motors. So I don't. They probably did something smart, and I mean it's not the most powerful on hills, so maybe it is slightly more efficient.
Yes. No, well, it's the longest range. It's interesting for me, because of course that is one of the things is that, you know, if you get a decent range, you can have bigger adventures, rather than lots of small ones.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, it's like I think someone said once, an electric skateboard starts weighing 12 kilograms, then you really feel it. And all my back pain these past 4 years, I can vouch for that.
Well, I mean, I have a much higher tolerance for lugging stuff about. As long as if it will take me further, I'm quite happy with it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If in like 3, 4, 5 years' time they do these sodium batteries that weigh wafer thin and weigh nothing, I'll be delighted. I will be delighted. But I mean, I have no problem with my tiny Mini Pro is Mini 3 Pro. It's a short board, but it is quite chunky. You know what I mean? It does, but it's absolutely no bother to move about. But obviously, compared to a normal skateboard, it's very noticeable. Whereas your hub motor ones are a lot closer to that. You know.
Absolutely. And plus, like you say, the rolling resistance, I can still push it quite easily. I've now started to get into a habit of not even using the throttle as much, which is probably more efficient going down hills and stuff, just cruising and letting gravity do the work. But yeah, it's quite exciting to see where it's going next, because there's all these new lights and all these new batteries which are there. You know, now everyone's using 21700 cells. And before it was all 18650s, and there's a chance I could actually put a bigger capacity battery in these, because the main companies won't sell me one. I guess I'll get someone else to build it.
Yes, well, there is always that.
I'm not asking much, just a 10S 1P with 21700 cells.
There you are. A shout out to the Esk8 universe to see if anybody in the UK. Not much use if anybody from the US watches this and says, "Oh, I'll help you out." But anybody in the UK that does that,
I just find it so frustrating, because they had the bigger battery option, and I was going to buy that bigger battery option, but then they don't sell it to the UK riders, which I think is stupid.
Oh dear. I mean, I suppose. What about the real batteries from the BKB build boards?
Well, that's the problem. Everything is 10S 2P, not 10S 1P. Like I said, these are probably the most narrow enclosures you can find. They are only 4 centimeters tall. So the ground clearance is very good.
So yeah, I suppose and you don't want to put risers on them. Then I take it.
Well,
No.
I could. It depends how it works on the pump track. Speaking of risers, the Meepo Ripple uses some rather strange ones. It uses these rubber wedge risers,
Yeah.
which usually these are made of plastic. So to see them actually made in rubber, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So a little bit, maybe a tiny bit of suspension, I guess.
Yeah, I do ride with my glasses. I'm honestly useless without them. Everything is a blur. I can see shapes.
If the police stop you and say, "Excuse me, sir, can you check that number plate?" You basically, "Sorry, sir, I can't do that at all." Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, it's good to have some eye protection anyway, isn't it? I mean, even if it's, I mean, I don't wear glasses, but I always wear, even if it's a bit dark, I'll wear like clear or light lenses, because I've had things in my eye at speed, and it's not pleasant.
No. And if anything, it does help with the wind chill and, like you say, the bits of debris, the dust, the rocks,
Yeah,
and so forth.
yeah,
But being able to see is probably the best benefit.
probably yes. That's number one benefit. Bloody marvelous. So, so you're gonna. What's the timescales for you for all this conversion work? When do you reckon you'll have these boards swapped over and things?
Honestly, it depends on the weather. If we get a dry day, wonderful. I can go out, try this Ripple, then I can take it back in, take it apart, put it on the other deck. I've already drilled the holes on this to have a longer wheelbase. I just need to, take out a few bolts, off you go, and then obviously figure out what the mounting screws are like on this enclosure, on the Meepo Mini Dual. In most cases, they'll give you an extra 2 screws, but you don't need all those.
That's
So,
spares, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, spares. I mean, you've got 2 screws on the side here, 2 screws on the side there, and there's a 2 down here. So really, it's just 4 screws. Same again, simple. Trying to figure out where to go is the hard part, but because these are on the outside, I can see and drill them. Unlike those enclosures where the bolts are on the inside, and then you have to guess.
Yes, that's the joy of mass manufactured skateboards versus things that you build in your garage or in your living room, isn't it?
Well, there's nothing wrong with enclosure designs where they deliberately have threaded inserts into the deck, but when you want to put that onto a different deck, then it gets more complicated.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to have, and I guess that's the thing. It's interesting to try and see who's thinking about those retrofitting options, or who's just thinking about, because some manufacturers will only will want you to pair their products together because that's what they know works, and other ones will be quite happy for you to mix and match, I guess.
Yeah, like you say, it's just acknowledging that people are going to experiment with your electronics. At the end of the day, once you sell it to them, it's out of your hands, and it's really at the buyer's discretion, I suppose, what we plug it into.
Indeed. Oh well, that sounds like a spring full of fun for you then, because that's a couple of projects for you to do.
Honestly, there's so many little things about these designs that have improved over the years, like comparing the Meepo Mini Dual hub motors. They're kind of single-use, well, not single-use. They are metal core hub motors. You can see how these use the axle bolts. So with these, unfortunately, they have the really biggest pain in the ass metal cores on the wheel sleeves. So they are an absolute so-and-so to remove. However, Exway, on the other hand, theirs are just rubber slide-on tyres. So no metal cores to worry about, and they should be an absolute godsend to change. So I think Exway wins this one for easier swappable tyres.
Yeah, I feel like you should do one of these new petitions because you've looked into all of these, the bushings, the size and the width and stuff like that, and you should put a petition for swappable stuff, about
it's just these kind of newer things. Like I said, these
exactly.
are the two of their size class with these hub motor sizes.
Cool. All right. So obviously there's you buy new boards, but obviously in addition to that, you keep us updated with your Esk8 news updates.
Yes, I do.
And what's been tickling your fancy lately?
Quite a few things. It would appear that Esk8 of the year has arrived. You know it when you see it. And even though there's two different models, there is the Exway Flex 2 Pro, I believe. But the real star of the show is the Exway Paragon. It has a 8 amp hour swappable battery, a quick swappable battery. I find it quite entertaining that the particular mechanism has latches like a Tupperware box.
And just to be clear, this is the James Esk8 of the year rather than any official category.
Well, the reason I say it more or less wins it is because it has a ludicrous amount of features. You could, for instance, talk about the only Esk8 with indicators and the gyroscopes built into the remote. You could talk about the brake light. You could talk about the, I think it's 200 LED Bifrost LED deck. None of this one light, two light options. It has the entire RGB range, and people have all the different settings to make it do a rainbow bridge around the skateboard, and it's almost got a kind of
you're making a case for it. However, I'm speaking
of features.
I know, yeah. But,
it's got a night rider light that runs around.
But what about the things like the funky hydraulic suspension that's supposed to get rid of wobbles on the new Ruckus? Is that not a game changer? Yes, what about the new M Boards Endurance, which is supposed to be absolutely crazy range?
Well, this is true. Those have very good merits in terms of engineering, but in terms of the overall package,
but in terms of the cool lights, just be honest with me, it's the cool lights.
It's the very cool lights, but the safety features. But yeah, no, that swappable battery, as far as I'm aware, it's the biggest battery of its size. It dwarfs the 6 amp hour Exway. Oh, what's it called again? Wave, the Exway Wave.
Yes.
That's 6 amp hour. This is 8 amp hour. It's only the Paragon that has the swappable battery, though, not the other one, the Flex 2 Pro.
Yes. Can you remember what's the limit for flying again?
It honestly varies between
airlines. I think it's quite ridiculously small, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, because I just thought one of the benefits potentially of a swappable battery is that if you could get it, because that to be honest, I think if they could find a way to get a battery that they would accept on planes, that would be a game changer. Because you go on your holidays, if you go on your holidays somewhere else, it would be, for most of us, just the ability to take your board would just be brilliant.
There was one, the 2 points that I wanted to raise before we move past this.
Yes.
I noticed that the wheels keep getting wider and wider. So as you know, we started out with 50, then 55, 60, and these ones are 65 millimeters wide by 90. So it would appear that skateboard wheels are getting much wider and wider. And it's like, at what point is it diminishing returns? I mean, when it's 100 mil wide.
It's a bit pimp my ride, isn't it? Check how wide my. But again, I suppose it's that thing about the width of the wheels versus the width of the axles, I guess, as well. I mean, because obviously the wider something is, it quite often has an impact on stability.
Yes.
As well as the length of a wheelbase. The width gives you a bit more stability if it's done right, I guess.
And my last point, as great as it is belt driven.
Now, come on. So you've just said skateboard of the year is not a hub motor.
Well, that's the thing. I mentioned this in a few different videos. I love it, want it, but I wish it had a different drive. If it was gear drive, if it was hub drive, if it was direct drive. And Exway in the comments said no to direct drive, which tells me there's going to be a gear drive and a hub drive version of this, which is what many other brands with light up decks have done.
So are you already researching the buy-in 3, the flexible payment options on this board? Be honest with me.
I'm angry at Exway because they took away their paying free option for UK residents.
What a liberty.
Yep, and annoys me because first they brought it back and then they got rid of it. So if they had, I could consider it, but because it's not there, I can't afford it.
You'll just need to save up for it. Old school, saving up for it.
Yeah.
Oh, and then it's bloody winter, isn't it?
But with such a big battery, with the swappable capacity of it, it is essentially my end game. If they had a gear drive or probably a gear drive version. I do like gear drives. I want one day.
Yes, I mean, again, becoming much more prevalent, aren't they? Again, interestingly, there's a, I suppose because it's an emerging technology, there's that thing where some people, their gear drives are slathered in grease, and then other people are suggesting no, a nice thin oil. Hi, James, good to join us. Hey. Yeah, so some people have like really thin oil, and it's easier to wash out, obviously, and like doing an oil change on your car. But I suppose it's that maintenance thing as well, because gear drives are fine, but if anything gets into them, it's kind of trapped. So I think again, it's having some mechanical sympathy for your stuff. If you're gonna, the more complex it is, you're gonna have to just look after it a bit better.
Compared to the mechanical complexity of your Propel, though, that's quite a complicated gear system.
It's got a few moving parts, but it's not actually it's not actually that it's not maintenance heavy at all. The only thing that I've noticed, well, it's not happened to me, but if people absolutely batter it about off-road,
like when we went to the pump track.
Like if they went to no, much more when you're battering off rocks and stuff, and when you're really putting a lot of sort of like impact pressure on the front suspension, I guess, that some people have said that because they are designed to be sacrificial, they're hollowed out, they're CNC'd out so that the design is in that they'll fail before the whole mechanism does, so that it's cheaper. So you just they make the arms really cheap so that you can replace them. But what they've recognised is that they're fine for general use, but for some people that really do batter their boards about really hard, they're not strong enough for that. So they've developed these more solid aluminium bully bars, which gives you a choice, I guess. So, but if you compare them to the likes of the Baja boards, the A-Tracks and stuff like that, which are incredibly complicated and have a lot of moving parts, they seem to fail much more often. They need a lot more TLC. It's a bit more like having a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? You got to spend a lot of time and effort on it.
Yes.
The Propel, not so much. It looks like it's got a lot of moving parts, but you just ride it and go. It's not big.
I suppose from my perspective, obviously, belts eventually snap. Those sprockets eventually wear away because they're exposed to an extent. I do think most gear drives these days, they're quite sealed, aren't they, with like various shells, and it would take a lot to get into them. If anything, you're more likely to see the oil get dirty and stuff as it runs through it all. But
but I mean, I guess the thing is with, I suppose for my approach is that belt drive, they don't feel that often unless you're doing, if you've got them too loose or too tight, or you're running them in stuff that's absolutely getting stuck in there all the time, then they run for long enough. And it's a bit like changing your hub motors, except a lot easier. You know what I mean?
Well,
your sleeves. You just swap them over. It's a disposable part, really.
Old hub motors, not so much. New hub motors, much easier. Apart from the axle bolt retaining bolts.
Yeah.
But that's to be expected. I would say that the question is, how much quieter can they make them? Obviously, there's helical cut gears in these gear drives in some of them, and that might be the trend for the future, because not everybody wants the noise.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's that I quite like a wee whine with the on the skateboard, the turbo whine of whoop, and it's a bit like I'm a motorcyclist as well, and
what were you saying about the whine?
You're getting a wee bit. That sounds like a flute. It's like ooh. It sounds like an entry to into Star Trek or something. But yeah, it's horses for courses, isn't it? I mean, for some people, noise is really intrusive, and some people they quite like the visibility, so to speak.
But going back to the Exway and the Paragon, it really is just going to challenge a lot of these LED deck companies to do better, because they're like, what do you mean they've got indicators and brake lights and fully RGB lights? Why haven't we got that? And it's quite different. It's like you have one light, I have 12.
So you're just going to have to keep part of your brain for doing the indicators and all that other stuff.
Moving on from that, funny enough, back to Propel. They've got two comments in this. They brought out a kind of new remote, which is mainly used for the ruckus, which you highlighted. But the other interesting thing about it is that it's usable for old Lingyi ESCs and the current Lifehawk ones. I don't think that. Oh, did it go through? Good, go. I was worried.
This is the new color one. Yes, yeah, and you can change all the colors and stuff. Yeah,
exactly, and that's another trend. I mean, people forget once upon a time all we had was LED lights to tell us how much battery was left in the tank.
Back in the day, do you remember it?
If it wasn't 6 years ago, and now we have OLED screens that are black and white, but now we have full color screens, and that's the newest trend. The way I see it is this is probably the sequel, I suppose, to the Meepo V3 Lingyi remote. So I do think that these newer color ones on the screen will probably outpace these ones.
Yeah, it looks like it's the same shape, isn't it? It's the same.
But these are quite dated. I mean, Meepo V3, we're on Meepo V5 now, V6. They've been around forever with the older Lingyi ESCs. So it's about time something kind of came forward to replace them. I know Wowgo has done theirs, and Exway have done their own, and Meepo have done their own. But it's good to see a new generation of remotes. Plus,
So obviously you can change all the colors and stuff. What I'm interested in, I don't know if I don't know, because I haven't looked into this as much as you, but do you know, for example, whether you can resize stuff? Because that's some of the stuff that I'm quite interested in. Is I would like to see if you could particularly make the battery meter bit bigger, because of all the other information that I'm getting. The bit that I want to know most without stopping is, am I running out of juice? And for it to be reliable.
That's a really good question. And funny enough, I had the same conversation with my mother today. You can increase the font size on your phones. She's got
absolutely, yes. You can change your home screen to make it fit you. So if you've got all this customization, why wouldn't you be able to? If you've got like an app on your phone, for example, be able to just, make this bigger, make that smaller.
It's a good point. It's like what indicators, what icons can you prioritize on your remote? Maybe that's something they need to look into.
Well, I tell you, I think that's important, because the one thing that I'm not a fan of in my my VX2 remote that Propel uses, is it's got loads of guff that I don't need, and it's all friggin' tiny. Now, I should be able to just bin it, so that I can choose the ones, because it's a decent enough size screen, but there's just too much going on. Yeah. And there's one thing that I don't want to be doing is squinting at it while I'm belting down the road. So I think that would definitely be, that's on my wish list, is simplify.
Perhaps that's where we're at with Esk8 remotes. It's like, how complicated can you make them with all these settings, and how complicated does it really need to be? It's like, think of this like, let's call it our smartphone era.
Yes.
We're trying to figure out.
And realistically, different colors is nice, but a white on a black is probably as good as it's going to get in terms of contrast. So I would rather see that customization than color, personally. Because for me, practical is more important than, that's funky, because if I can't see it in sunlight, I'm not bloody bothered if it looks cool in the pub,
It's funny you should mention that, because I know like some brands such as Backfire, their Hammer remote, Halo remote. I can see your Halo. Well,
don't break into song.
Must resist. So basically, it changes color depending on what gear mode you're in. So it becomes like a mellow color to a more aggressive red, and so forth when you're in like the higher speed modes. And I find that quite, the novelty of that.
Yeah, it's quite cool. It's good that they experiment with stuff, but I think even as long as you can then turn that off, because you don't always want to be a bling fest. You don't want to look like you're,
Indeed.
Cool. Anything else taking your eye lately?
So on to another kind of revision. We have MaxFind with their 6th generation, the Max 6. And unlike their Max 5, which is a hub-driven model, this one is belt-driven. It retains its kind of slimline styling, but you wouldn't realize it uses a huge 10 amp hour battery. You compare that to the real F1 Max and their turkey bowl of a tray for a 10 amp hour battery, and they've definitely got it right compared to the real's attempt. It's not that I don't love the capacity, it's just, why does it need to be a battery that's larger than the skateboard?
That's fair enough. God, that's cheap as chips, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's only got a top speed of 26 miles per hour. And I'm thinking maybe the way they got around this is, instead of like building the pack, I guess, in bigger series, bigger parallel, they made it smaller, kind of like these other boards that are behind me, which explains the slim profile. So it won't access those higher top speeds, but it keeps the range.
No, that's fair enough. I guess that's one of the things that you always do. You bring us the more affordable end of the market. You're not all about the top of the range boards. You're about some of the accessible stuff as well.
Aye. But the really curious thing about this is it's using 11-inch wide trucks, whereas most are 7 or 8-inch wide. So it's quite the wide footprint for a skateboard. I know there's a trend for what comes next, and the next trend is get those trucks wider.
So, yeah, do you anticipate this being worth investigating, or do you think it's just a novelty?
It's definitely not a novelty. I think for people that like these kind of slimline composite deck, not bamboo, not carbon fiber decks, people will probably really like these. And I like that they've leaned into the cyberpunk aesthetics. They have some LED lights in the enclosure, some rear tail lights. So they've kind of thought this through. Like, what can we do without going all the way into LED Tron lights?
And MaxFind as a brand, do you think that they are? I think, because you don't really hear that much about them, do you?
No, they're good for what they do, but I do feel like they're a little bit more expensive than they should be. But I know they revise their designs quite often, which is good. I just wish they'd lower the price of their scooters so I could get one.
But having said that, that's not much money for an electric skateboard, is it? Bloody hell.
And in fact, at one point I was considering getting their AT hub motor board, but they just stick with the double kingpin trucks, and now the trend is to put single kingpin trucks on them for more stability.
Yeah. So have you seen any reviews of this board at all?
I think it's currently in the pre-order stage, but it's
right.
It's good to see that they've brought out a new model. For those who don't like hub motors like me, they will go, yes, a belt drive at last.
Minty's not happy about it, but I am happy about the price. Suki, the other way around. I'm saying that is cheap as chips for a board. It's James that's saying that it's a bit pricey. James is trying to drive down the price so that he can buy one.
But to be honest, the price of these is always expensive when they first come out. And considering the capacity of the battery, it's a good price. It's their other kind of AT boards that have been around for a while that I want to come down in price.
Yes, indeed.
Especially that scooter.
Especially that scooter. Yes. Well, the one that will go uphill.
Dual motor, swappable battery.
Indeed. Right. Okay. Anything else taking your fancy at the moment?
So we've got one more thing, and that is Esk8 kart. I've gone into the archives and I found this post from 2020. And Propel, somebody told me this was who managed Propel before they are now, but they had a go-kart idea, and it was a skateboard go-kart, and I just need to know more, and I need to know where this is, and I need to try it.
I think that was just a concept picture.
What are we surrounded by, Suki and Minty? We are surrounded by electric trikes and go-karts and all manners.
Yeah.
Kids electric e-skate go-karts. Where are the ones for the adults?
Well, interestingly, there was something, right? So if I spoke to Russ, I could probably ask about, but certainly there's some footage. They modified.
I did too.
Was it? Well, they modified I think it was an X4S rather than an Endeavour. I think, if I remember. There's a guy that Russ knows out in the States, who's got prosthetic legs, and there was a bit of video footage about maybe 2 years ago of this guy, doing jumps on this, sitting down on this deck. So they put a seat on it. I'm gonna try and find it for you, right? Because you'll love all that.
But the thing is, I did technically make an Esk8 kart.
You did.
I chopped a kid's go-kart in half and I bolted it to the front of my skateboard, so it kind of looks like a model.
That's not it.
Tramper do have go-karts, a little bit too expensive, but I'm on about something that you can use to adapt your existing electric skateboard, like a front end piece, and that's all you really need to have a go-kart for your skateboard. Something that can go into the existing truck mounting bolts, and it's just the product that people have wanted for years, and somebody needs to make a manufactured version.
If you think
existence.
One of the things, those little hoverboard things, people made. No, but listen, did you see the things that they bolted onto them to make them go-karts? They were just like two-handled things and stuff. They were pretty. I thought that was an innovative use of, something that you could just slap onto one of those things to make it a completely different mode of transport. So surely some innovation, sort of like some version of that could make sense.
Yeah, it is, the thing about those is it's just a shame that they were so underpowered. At most, they only do 8 miles per hour, 12 miles per hour. Even
before they went on fire.
Even our weakest electric skateboards go faster than that.
Yes,
we'll probably climb hills too, which is why I'm saying we need this front end go-kart piece for these electric skateboards, and it's the one product that everybody will probably buy, and no one's done it. And the other thing I've noticed is, let me tell you, it is a pain in the butt to try and find wheels for these kids' go-karts. If somebody made a go-kart front end that could fit existing skateboard wheels, you'd have a whole new market, because it can fit existing skateboard wheels, whereas with proper go-karts, you need specialized ones, and good luck trying to figure out the axle width.
Yeah, I mean, I guess those kinds of go-karts that you're dealing with, I mean, they're not designed as upgradable things. They're just very low key, sort of like you play with them as they are, and that's what they are. So I guess you're trying to boost them up to different levels of performance that they were never designed to handle.
That's the irony, though. I mean, even if we kept our electric skateboards in low speed mode, 15, 18 miles per hour, that's fine. But you look at the other ones, and now we've got ones that are pushing 40, 43 miles per hour. And it's like, those are the ones where they're like, okay, you need some serious car wheels on that.
Yeah, there was, I think there was there not, I seem to remember there was a bonkers post on YouTube a while ago where this guy made like a hoverboard with Formula One wheels. Did you remember seeing that?
Formula One wheels? I don't think so, but I need to find it.
Yeah, honestly, Google it. It was quite nuts. I'm pretty sure it was like just a complete bonkers thing. Yes, don't you'll be out bidding on it now. It will be mine.
There is another.
Oh, blimey! And on that bombshell, oh my good! I dread to think, James. Next time you're on, I dread to think what you'll be at next.
Well, if I'm very lucky, the other skateboard I sent off for should arrive, which is the Mini 3S. Sorry, the tiny Mini 3SL, the student life, with hub motors. And that one is going to go on my first electric skateboard. I'm going to do a deck swap on that and bring back my unique Ego 2, which is a two-tone blue and black skateboard deck.
Lovely, jubbly. So Suki's done our homework really fast there and come up with this. Look at that. Look at that.
See, this is where we're going wrong with Esk8 Con. We need to get this featured. We need to put this.
I tell you, they're going to need bigger barriers. That would just roll straight over the bloody barriers.
Oh, look at it. They put hoverboard motors into it, didn't they? Wow.
Absolute bloody lunacy. I can't believe you didn't see that before, James, because you're the king of unusual builds.
Mm-hmm.
And it does look like both of those wheels, if you watch it in close, they're angled in at a fearsome angle, which makes me think that if they go another 50 feet, the thing will just snap in half, because it just doesn't have the integrity with all the with all that weight.
Yeah, I'd hate to think of the leverage and the strain on those axles.
Oh, I know. Yes, perhaps in need of another upgrade.
How about you, Minty? What have you been up to lately? Any new projects? How are you getting on with the Propel?
Yeah, the Propel's grand. It's like a comfy pair of slippers now. I mean, I love the bindings. Yeah, I wasn't sure. You know, lots of people said, "Oh, that are bloody death trap bindings." You know, you can't get out of them. And fair enough, I suppose. You know, you probably can't in some instances, but it depends how tightly you do them up. But the connection to the board, it does make it feel much more snowboardy, and they're soft, they're plush, they're comfortable, and combined with the soft, comfortable suspension, it makes for a connected experience, but in a like a snowboardy sort of way. So there's not that jerky. Oh my God, what's that next crack going to be in the pavement? You know what I mean? But in some ways,
Oh, I've just remembered one of my projects.
the next, yeah, I remember you did that. But then that wasn't you. You had them quite far across to one side, and because of the enclosure and stuff. So I don't know if that was ever going to work as well as it could have done. So I think maybe if you had a different setup, or even those Tomboy Esk8 ratchet ones, that might be, because they're kind of halfway through like a hook design rather than. But anyway, yeah. So I like the fact that the Tiny is such a it's extremes. I've got a very big board and a very small board.
Well,
they both make me laugh.
You reminded me of one of my projects that I want to eventually attempt. Obviously, there aren't many direct drives around anymore. If there are, they're very few and far between and too expensive. However, one product did appear on Etsy quite a while back, and I intend to get it. And that is the hub motor 80 wheel rims, to have 80 wheels on my hub motor. Like we did in the old days before cloud wheels, where it was hubcap adapters, and it was kind of like, a very hot rod style. Hot
rod style. I think you should become the importer of Transite boards, because Transite, they're still, I think, are they not still a bit of a champion of the direct drive?
That's the problem, isn't it? Transite are really well known in other countries, and people
yes.
that can afford them do afford them, but they ain't budget boards in the slightest.
They're not, but I would like to see more of them over here, because I quite like their ethos. They're kind of I think that were they not the ones that were kind of given certified Aussie status, because so much of it was, and I think that's that's to be applauded. So it'd be good to try and get some of that to the masses over here as well. I'd like to see more the M boards ones as well. Yeah, but
it's an interesting world we live in the sense that we're surrounded by these Tron light Esk8s and these hub motor boards that are very small and compact, and then you've got these kind of 80 off-roading trampers and transites, and trying to find your place in that market and staying there is probably going to be a challenge for a lot of them.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, and it's about knowing your market and I suppose your customer base and offering those different things. What are we loading up now?
Yeah, these are those 80 rims for hub motors.
Right. Okay.
Price
for
Evolve wheels on it.
For £234 for a set of wheels on a board costing how much? I'm not judging.
Probably just over 300.
Yeah. You see,
but I mean, how much do you spend on wheels?
Well, again, as a proportion of the board, you know what I mean. I bought my nice alloys for the Propel, the Bravura ones.
Nice alloys.
They were when they were doing a sale. Hey, that's a thing. Before we go, right? So here's the thing. I don't know if it's a thing because that a lot of other folk do, but it's a thing that I guess has slightly frustrated me about the Propel, as a company rather than. And there's not much that frustrates me because they're a bloody good company. But what has frustrated me is they put on specials, right? So they put on like half price wheels, right? And then 6 weeks later they go, "Oh, this is on special now," and you think, "You're picking joking. I would have bought that as well. Go and put everything on special at one time, and I will do a big order," because the shipping absolutely destroys you. So buying lots of stuff, little bit at a time, that does my nut in. So if I was going to ask Propel to do anything differently, it's like if you're gonna offer, like they're offering their gear drive conversions, for example, for at a low price for the Endeavour 2, and then they're going to do the Endeavour 1 afterwards and stuff. Propeller trying to sell every week. Yeah, they sell every week, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to have a sale, you want to have 6 sales, have 1 sale.
There's also those budget board websites that have perpetual sales, and that's just the standard price. Is looking at you, Max Find and Team G.
Yeah, obviously. But so just that's just because shipping is so expensive. If you're going to buy, I would buy more if I knew that everything I wasn't going to get it cheaper next week. You know what I mean? That's just a little insight from me, because of the post-Brexit bloody Britain and the cost of trying to get anything into this country is absolutely eye-watering.
See, I mean, this is why it's so important to me that they put PayPal paying free on their website. And it's like, oh, use the other one. But I don't trust the other payment plans and the other companies that I've never heard of before. So it's those things.
Yeah, no, it is. And until we get UK distributors, so that all of the other stuff that makes it so ridiculously expensive to get things from the other side of the world, until they get some of that nailed, we're gonna be facing a lot of these things on an ongoing basis, are we? Mm-hmm. Oh, there we are. On that bombshell, shall we end things for this evening? To be fair, it's even more. Well, I'm not saying it's. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it is expensive, important anywhere. I guess what I'm saying is, it doesn't make sense for consumers to buy things in bits if they can buy it in bulk. That's what I'm saying, I guess.
But either way, it's an exciting time for electric skateboards. It's not very often that one comes along with built-in gyroscopic indicators.
Gyroscopic. There you go. That's and if you've got matching helmet lights as well, and that'll be the next thing. It'll be one. I'm waiting for to like some nobleman to do a whole thing. Sometimes shipping is more absolutely more expensive than the parts themselves, and that's the stuff. Like I say, that's the real kick in the wheres, is that if you buy stuff and you think, and then in 6 weeks time they release something else, and then they say, oh well, we've got a special deal on that, and you think, bollocks, I'm not spending another 60 quid on shipping.
Well, here's a good question. Obviously, Exway on certain models of theirs, they will not allow you to use the top speed of the board unless you've done a certain amount of miles. Does anyone know if that applies to the Exway Ripple? Because if this tiny board goes faster and I suddenly find out on a pump track whilst using the top.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if you've got to earn it. Like gamer score on a computer game, you have now unlocked hardcore mode.
There you go.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to report back, James.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking us through your new additions to your stable, and as always for your service through the Esk8 news. We salute you, sir, and thanks everybody for watching from around the world. And we shall catch you next time. All right, folks. See you later. Bye-bye.